Welcome to Whole Lot of Wolves, Season 3, Episode 32. We're your hosts. I'm Joshua Buckley.
I'm Paul LePage.
And back this week is our fantastic producer, Mr. Alex Patakis in New York City. How's it going, Alex?
It's going well. How are you guys?
Oh, you know what? I feel good. We get to talk about a fun game, guys. It seems like it's been a while. But man, oh man, 1-0 victory at home against Chelsea. Huge 3 points. A lot to talk about, Paul. What were your initial reactions?
Initial reactions, you're just immediately buoyed by those 3 points, and then you're instinctively looking at the table about how it shakes out and how the other results were coming in. And I made the cardinal sin of doing that at half time, and I thought I'd proper jinx it at that point. But thankfully we hung on, and it just seemed like a really composed, compact performance where across the board you'd say 7 out of 10, but then you had some players amongst there that excelled and hit the 8s and 9s. So when you put all that together at home, I don't know what it is about the opposition if we're playing up to them, these so-called bigger sides coming into town, whether it's the glitz and the glamour and the players raising their game. But there was a lot talk this week about these, it's not down to the manager, it's the time for these players to step up. And it was a definite case that it looked like they did. Formation wise, looked good, looked solid, still had a little creativity in it. It seemed it was nice to see him run somewhat of a 4-4-2 with two dedicated forwards, Costa being the more advanced, and then Cunha behind or taking up that more free role. And again, you see some green shoots, I think, from his performance and some of the positions that he was getting into. But I think it's a good performance when you can talk about Daniel Podence game in positive terms, that when he plays well and when he looks after the ball, it seems the Wolves play well, and that was it. He had a hand in a few stuff, and just defensive solidity. You can't ask so much more than what they put out yesterday. I thought probably Semedo went under the radar a little bit, but he probably had one of his best games in a Wolves jersey. He really did. And some of the blocks that Dawson put it out there, left it all out on the line, similar for Kilman, and then Totti again at left back. They might have stumbled on a hidden gem for him to see it out potentially for the end of the season and just go really solid down the left-hand side with that more centre-back version of a left-back there that locks it down. So ton of positives. On another day, we may have got another one. But I think balance of play, pretty 50-50. But I can't really recall Sarr being made to work really hard in terms of
one
pulling out
shot on
borders.
target. Chelsea had one shot on target. It's insane.
So I think that collectively what you speak to is that team effort with that stat, definitely.
Alex, I know you were cheering hard when Matheus hit that shot. I feel like you've been calling the Matheus goal for months now, and it finally happened.
Finally, yeah. I don't think you get any credit when it comes like 3 months late. So
I'll give it to you.
But that's not the type of goal I would have expected him to score either. But it just felt good for him to get it because I think maybe 2 weeks ago, we briefly discussed like what the run-in would look like for Wolves, and also I had mentioned that I was really excited to see how Matheus is used and just what we get out of him, because again, it's a make or break summer for him, right? Like Liverpool is reportedly no longer interested in him. I don't know if I believe that. Yeah. Oh, boo-hoo. Yeah, I think it's, he's at the point where he has a big price tag. He comes in as he's no longer the record signing, but he was, a few short months ago, where he's trying to prove himself in the best league in the world. And so far, I would say he's been kind of a disappointment, even though we all know that the talent is there. So for him to just kind of like break through with a goal of that nature in a game of this importance to them, felt so good. But man, what a goal, and
I just
and the reactions, like
Cunha's
I don't know how
reaction
you
was
guys were.
Cunha's reaction was the best, and I had even seen it before the announcer said it on there. As it goes in, and Cunha's just has his hand on his head, like, what just happened?
So were you guys, was that your reactions too? Because
Oh yeah,
mine was way more like fist pumping, like yes, and like, but like I totally get how some people would just be like total disbelief.
I was
Mine,
just like, oh my god.
it sounds very much after the fact, but I generally thought as soon as that left his foot, it was a goal. And just the way that it went in, you couldn't have placed it any better. The sweetness that must have felt leaving his foot must be the best feeling in the world. And I think you mentioned previously about he needs a goal or something to kickstart it. You could just tell the relief. Not just like that, it must have built up so much that his celebration was more that relief and just letting it all go. And hopefully that's a real kickstart now.
He was very proud of the badge during that celebration, which I thought was very interesting for a guy that hasn't really been the fans' most popular because he has disappointed. For him to do that, I think that said a lot to me. So of course, we're talking about, whoa, what was the difference with Matheus this week? Well, we can say there was one difference. I got a tweet from Roll Persuasion that said, brace yourself. The We Don't Need Neves fans are coming. And we got a no stupid question about that too, Alex.
Yes, we do. Sam Spencer then weighed in and said, think our recruitment team deserves some plaudits. That was our first glimpse of life after Neves. I hate that this is already a narrative, the without Neves thing. If he does leave, and we looked solid in the midfield. Thoughts? So to Sam's question, without Neves equals?
Well, I think it equaled Matheus being in a more natural spot for him. And we also got a glimpse of the next Neves, and that was Joao Gomes, Paul.
I think the Gomes performance in particular, if there was one that could define defensive midfielder, if you looked at that definition in the dictionary, there'd be a picture of him. And it goes to show how much that position's evolved over the years. No longer it's just a guy that sits in the middle of the park and kicks everything that goes past. He was everywhere, chasing down, didn't give him a break, able to come away with the ball, try forwards. It had a little bit of everything. That was even a better performance than Lamina against Liverpool, and that's saying a heck of a lot. So I think it does to me show there'll never be another Neves. We'll never see a player like him again. I don't think in a Wolves jersey, but it definitely gives. I see both sides of the argument if it's presented that way. But it makes me think there's life after Neves. But it does make me think that our midfield will look a little different and have a different profile to it. And I think Gomes could definitely be that more, take that centre mid berth. So as far as the positions go, I think it gives, if he's playing a 3, I could see Gomes taking up that centre spot, potentially Matheus on the right, whether it's Lamina on the left. I'm not sure. If it is more of a double pivot with 2 more defensive midfielders, centre midfielders, and then 3 forwards. I think probably it's Lamina and Gomes, and whether Matheus could play that more advanced role on the right hand side, or whether he could take one of those spots in the centre and be able to drive forward from that position. Might be interesting to see the dynamics with that.
I tell you what, we talk box to box midfielder. Holy shit. Joao Gomes was everywhere. Nunes, too, was everywhere. I mean, those guys, I love Wolves posted today. Just Joao Gomez winning the ball back repeatedly, a video of it. And he retweeted it and said, "That's the spirit." Flame emoji, wolf emoji. He's quickly becoming a fan favorite, right, Alex?
No, absolutely. And we said that we thought he would when he joined the team in January. As
I'm wearing
Josh
my
reps
free
his
Joao Gomez shirt. Yeah.
which is great and much deserved. And you were doing over unders a couple weeks ago with us, Josh, and we were talking about his starts, and at that point, Neves hadn't picked up that booking. But it kind of felt like the Gomez coming out party, even though he got a goal in his debut, wouldn't happen until next year. That he was kind of just on the back burner for a little bit, and that has quickly changed because we've seen the player that I think we all hoped he would be when we were watching YouTube highlight videos of him, a player who just like effortlessly wins the ball, not effortlessly, but just somehow just makes it look easy to win the ball back time after time against, now in the Premier League, some world-class players. So he is absolutely endearing himself to this team because he's just like the total workman's midfielder, which I feel like for this fan base and this team, which is in a fight, that we've been looking for players who are up for the relegation battle, right? Like guys who are willing to scrap. He's everything we've been wanting, and he's 22, and that's the best part of it, is that he's got a ceiling that he's not even close to hitting, it feels like, yet. So that's really exciting.
Paul, do you feel like here in the next year or two, he's going to be playing more like Neves or more like Moutinho? Because he seems to have a little bit of what both of those guys can bring.
That's where I feel that we're not going to see a similar dynamic midfield that we've ever had, because they're too distinctly they're similar but different, and they're filling a role, but they will play it differently. Neves probably reads the game better, isn't as mobile across the ground as he is. Obviously, he's got that ability to pick up the pass, but it just seemed yesterday that it allowed us to play probably 5 to 10 yards further up the pitch. And I think that helped. And it did give a little more impetus to play on the front foot. And that's no slight on Neves. That's, again, I just think the dynamism of the midfield allows you to set up a little more proactively.
All right, so guys, they did get a shutout, which means it is lunch for the Wolves players this week. So we're going to do a little something, which I hope to make this an every week thing anytime they have a clean sheet. So instead of like just basic man of the match, I'm going to ask, three questions here, and you guys have to answer. The first one, who gets to order first at lunch? Who earned that right, Paul?
I think that's got to be Gomes. I think man of the match, it's hard with Matheus' strike, and definitely first half he was awesome, maybe tailed off in the second, but Gomes was a constant. So for first effectively man of the match, he's got that first dibs.
How about you, Alex?
I would nominate him, but I guess just to be a little bit different, I just want to give a shout out. And I think let's just, I know that Neves is probably invited to this lunch, but let's just say, like, because he's suspended, I just want to acknowledge Max Kilman, who I thought had a really good game, and he steps in as the captain in a really solid defensive performance. Him and Dawson, and Semedo for that matter. Totally, really. I mean, he was an anchor on a defensive unit that made a very, very, very expensive Chelsea front line look really blunt. There wasn't a lot of sharpness to them. So, you know what? Max is wearing the armband. Like you order first, my man, and I hope you
Nice.
order. You know, don't cheap out. Get something expensive. You know, you earned it.
All right, who gets to pick out the appetizers for the table? Paul?
Choices for the table. Again, this is a little may not be thought of, but a very again a particular role that may have gone under the radar somewhat, and it adds another conversation in that he was probably taking the place of someone who we thought would be on there. But I'm going to give it Wang, because he put himself out there a ton yesterday. And considering that we started with Costa, there was no Raul, there was a lot on his shoulders to come on and do what he did. And I thought for once we had a pretty decent official. But to give a foul when he won the ball off
Oh
Kuble,
my God.
who's built like a brick outhouse and went down just like a feather, just because he got knocked off the ball by Wang, he used his strength to bring it away, and he put it on a plate for Sarabu, who could easily scored. It goes Wang for me. I thought he did great.
Alex?
Yeah, I'll go with Tony Gomes because I think it feels kind of like an honorable mention award to order the appetizers. And you know, he didn't do anything spectacular, but he
But
also didn't do
yeah.
anything wrong.
Uh-huh.
Which for a player who's, I mean, that's not his position. He's playing out of position. You know, I mean, we're just trying stuff here because whatever happened with Nori is like apparently unforgivable. So, for him to be able to step in and play as well as he did, not to mention against Raheem Sterling and Reece James overlapping, like that is not easy.
Yeah.
So go ahead and he could put in the fried calamari and the artichoke dip for us this time.
And another thing I think that's a positive about Totti starting is it adds another 6-footer to corners
Mhm.
on both ends of the pitch, because we're not the biggest team. And it did seem yesterday that although the delivery wasn't necessarily on the money, it just looked like we had a little bit more threat in the box for our corners. So I think that adds to his game as well.
Mhm. And who gets to order a second dessert, Paul?
Oh, it's got to be Matheus for that strike.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. You get treated for a goal like that for sure.
Alex?
No, I mean, there's no other answer.
So
Absolutely.
I think after all the games, if it's a shutout, clean sheet, Alex, we need to put that on the Twitter feed and have everybody named there. It's got to be who orders first, who orders the appetizers, who gets the double dessert. And
Love it.
we should also ask, what kind of food do they get to eat this week? I feel like it would be American food as a nice little jab to the Chelsea ownership, but maybe you guys is it do we go a little ethnic?
I think there's two ones we could take here. Didn't New York Wolves have a pretty strong contingent there this week, Alex? I saw some pictures, so that lends itself to the American theme. Or they can go Indian, because I know it was the Samosa Saturday there as well for the fundraising. So it could be an Indian dish in support of that.
Ooh, I like it. I like it. So yeah, I'm sure the journalists are also hoping that they get some pizza this week for the clean sheet. Yeah, Paul, what did you think of Tony Gomez? I think Alex really said it well. Do you think this is a position he could play regularly, or is this just going to be, hey, let's have him play it out this season and then reevaluate?
I think it may have been post-match comments or an interview just before that he's played the position in the past, obviously not at a Premier League level. So he has got that type of comfort. And I do think with the type of centre back they look to be identifying. And this goes back to the recruitment and the way I think they want the team to play. They want centre backs who are comfortable with the ball at the feet, with the likes of Totti and Kilman. And I think that naturally, even Collins as well, that naturally lends itself to being able to take a fullback position because you've got that comfort with the feet of the ball if you've got the right type of profile. So he could definitely do a job and step in. I think maybe Collins could as well at right back when needed. I probably don't see it as a long-term thing because I think the ceiling that Bueno's got is massive. So that would probably be my go-to. But against certain opposition, maybe certain profile of the team that we need to put out again when it comes to those little nuances like height and defending set pieces, there could be certain games where he's the starter down to his physical attributes.
Alex, do you think we've seen a lot of tinkering with Lopetegui when it comes to his lineups? Can you see him bringing in this exact lineup against Brentford this next week, or do you still see maybe a couple of changes?
I feel like it's foolish to expect the same lineup just because we never get it. We rarely even get the same formation. But with that being said, I do feel that this work. And I'm stumbling all over the place. Let me just put it this way: without Neves, I would love to see the same spine of the team, and by that I mean I feel like we know that Kilman and Dawson are probably going to start. I really Lamina, Joao, Gomes. There's a reason they were both bought in January.
Fun too.
That is to me what feels like the future of a Lopetegui midfield, and what's around it really depends, which I think also lends itself to a further what is Matheus's position in the future, and does he have a future here conversation, which as good as he played is still something we're talking about. And I quite like Diego Costa playing with Cunha. I mean, he's clearly not the same player physically, but I don't know how to quantify what he adds when he's playing and starting for this team. But to me, Costa feels like a guy who enables other players to shine a little bit around him. And I like that quality. Like, I feel like he's willing to do some of the dirty work to let Cunha get into good positions. There were many times he was in the penalty area, kind of like slightly off to the right side where, I think he put one like way over the bar that probably should have been on target, and another similar one, or I think a save was made in the same game. But I want to see that. What's around it, I don't know, because it's really anybody's guess with Lopetegui. But to something Paul said earlier, I don't know where he would fit in. Hwang, I feel like, is someone who's got to play. Like, he's when healthy since the World Cup. And since he had a very good World Cup with Korea, I feel like he's been a play. And I don't know what position that would be in. And if it's that 4-4-2-ish look, I don't know where that would be. Does he play over Podence? That's not really his natural position. But he's someone I could see coming into the team to start if there were a change that I would make.
Interesting. Paul, now that the monkey is off, Matheus is back. Who on the team has the most pressure to score their first goal of the year?
Oh, that's a good one.
I'm hitting you guys up tonight.
Yeah, who's left to get one?
So I think it's what Costa.
Cunha gets the one versus Leeds, a deflected one, so they gave him that one, so he's got his. It's still got to be an attacker, and I think that comes down to Costa really if he's starting.
Or Neto, yeah,
or Neto. But I think I saw either a stat posted on Twitter that our last 11 goals have been scored by 11 different players. So we talk about this goal drought or from the attackers, and we're not a free scoring team by any stretch, but at least it gives some variety. So I'll either go for that attacker, or I'd like a big towering header from Max Kilman. Hasn't scored this season, has he? I don't think.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, let's have one from Max.
How about you, Alex?
Yeah. I think Diego is. I would go Neto. I
That's
think
what
it
I
kind of
think
like
too.
it would mark his return. I think Costa getting one would be great, but and he's not playing recently. But I mean, if had he started this last game and not scored, I would probably say Raul. But to me, it's more Neto, kind of like, yeah, coming back full circle from that injury, and kind of stamping his return as a player of significance in this squad going forward.
Yeah, and I think that pressure may be self-made as well. I think Neto probably, because he seems pretty hard on himself. He wants to go out and score every time. So I could see that. Paul, do we still know what's happening with Nuri? I mean, we saw he was in training at least with his shaved head. Yee. Did like did he not give his hair to Locks of Love and it ticked off Lopetegui? I mean, what's going on?
It does seem a little on the one hand, it's an extended period, which makes those questions resonate even more, and even to the extent of, obviously, with Neves being unavailable and playing an extra midfielder, it meant that Joe Hodge came onto the bench, so he took up that place, obviously, if needed, to come in centre mid when the cover's there for left back with Bueno. So it's a tricky one with Nuri, because he's very much a marketable asset, and at one point he was really making a mockery of the potential, his current value potentially against what he could command. And with the likes of, you're never sure if there's any truth behind the rumours, but the likes of Man City, mooted, and even Chelsea, I think, was another one when they're on the lookout for a left back. So they've got to balance it that way. I think must be, if possible, he's definitely worth persevering with, but it's going to be interesting if it comes to light about what this extended absence has been caused, or if it is genuine and down to tactics. It's a conundrum, I think.
What do you think, Alex?
I'm shocked that this, whatever it is, hasn't leaked yet, honestly, because to me it feels like it needs to almost be something dramatic. And I say that because one, it can't just be about, I mean, the Lopetegui era started with an Nuri winning goal against Everton, and then him playing in a more advanced position as a left winger or a left midfielder, and all of a sudden we were thinking like, maybe Lopetegui's genius is going to turn this guy into like the attacking player that we don't have, that we've been craving. And since then, I mean, I know he probably doesn't offer as much defensively as a left back, but I don't really remember a performance where he did much wrong. So it's got to be an off-field thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy to me. And what I was really thinking about the whole time Paul was talking is like, if there's that big of a rift, does he get invited to the clean sheet lunch? Like, does he get to sit at the table? Is he relegated to the bar and he can't even like talk to his teammates and sit at the table of 20 something? Like, what's the deal with that?
Oh, that's a good question. Is he even invited?
This guy feels like he's been exiled, and I just can't figure out why, because it would be one thing, if he wasn't playing, we weren't noticing behind Bueno, but the Bueno injury almost felt like it would solidify him playing.
Yeah, and it pushed him further down.
It really did. That's what's totally baffling about it to me. and his value is diminishing as someone who you could conceivably see being sold on and having a second chance at kind of kickstarting his career somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was a big 3 points. Wolves are now 4 points clear of relegation. And thankfully, everybody's pretty much caught up. The only team with a game in hand is West Ham. And I don't think West Ham is going to be in the relegation battle for too much longer. They are a little streaky, but they seem to be taking care of the games they need to take care of. So looking here, can we pretty much confidently say right now that Southampton and Leicester City are going down, Paul?
I think Southampton, you can. The Leicester one just seems totally unexpected, and that there'd have been no one's pick at the start of the season for sure. But sometimes there's that team that they're too good to go down, or they're no one's pick, and sometimes you hit that spiral that you just can't get out of. And Leicester could be in it, and that could be speeding up the spiral, regardless of who comes in to try and turn it around. It could be too little, too late, and that could be a big shock if they're one of the three. It's often said that you don't care where you finish as long as you're not the third one of the three worst teams.
That's
and
right.
Definitely Southampton are, Leicester are, possibly Leeds were today. And you look at those types of teams. I think we've got 2 more wins on those. We've got 8 wins, they've got 6, and that kind of tells you, I think, where it falls in terms of who the teams are that are going to go down. I think if we hold our ground, we're going to be relatively comfortable, and those teams are going to be struggling and may not get out of it.
Let's remember we lost to Leicester 4-0 this year. That still blows my mind. This week should be interesting. Brentford, Wolves, they can give Wolves some trouble. It is at Molineux, so let's see. But Southampton is playing Crystal Palace. That's, not really sure what to think of that game. Everton could pick up some points against Fulham, who's just in a free fall. But then you have ones like Leicester City, Man City. Well, Leicester City is not getting points from that. I would be stunned. Same with Nottingham Forest and Manchester United. United's not playing as well right now, but neither is Forest, and Leeds Liverpool. So you could even look at it and say, well, even if Wolves, if they get a point this week, that could be a positive result. And I think that's good. And even then, looking the next week, that's going to be the big game to me, Paul, is that April 22nd game against Leicester. What do you think?
I think we need a defining away win in this run-in to really solidify our position and our place, that we are going to keep ourselves out of trouble. It feels like we're still a long way away from it. We're not really, but it does to me think that if we're going to look for that game to pick up those 3 points, it's that one, because they will have to do something by that stage of the season as well. They can't sit back or anything. They'll need their 3 points. I think that could play into our hands. In the lead up to that, I'm kind of rooting for the games that Crystal Palace play, because I want them to rock up to Molineux in a couple of weeks' time on that Tuesday and be relatively safe. So maybe they take their foot off the gas a little, and that's one that we can capitalize on. So anything that they can do that inflicts damage on those below us, like they did today against Leeds, I'm an advocate of those types of results, and then we try and get something against them when we play. It does seem the narrative that we do play better against the teams above us, so maybe we beat them and Brentford just because of their position in the table.
Those Tuesday games I hate. They're almost like NFL Thursday night games. They just always feel weird. Don't really feel like it's the best play. I mean, we have to think too, it's not just our performances. You have to look at now the guys below us in the table. Do you know who Nottingham Forest has coming up here the next few weeks? They are
I
playing
think
Manchester United, then Liverpool, then Brighton. Those are their next three games. And they still have Arsenal the week before the end of the season. They have Chelsea, which, I mean, Chelsea could snap out of it at any point. I'm glad it wasn't against us. And they end against Crystal Palace, which should be interesting, Paul, because you're bringing up the whole, well, maybe Palace will be safe by then. But looking at that and then looking at Wolves' schedule, I can't see where Nottingham Forest is picking up. Really, they would need 5 more points than Wolves because Wolves are 4 ahead right now, but they own a 12 goal advantage in goal differential. Okay, so that makes me feel pretty good. All right, Everton's got a little easier of a schedule, but they still have to play Man City. They still have to play us, which will be a big game. They still have to play Newcastle. So there are those teams below us. They've got tough schedules coming up too.
yeah, it is. You start to figure out those permutations and everything, and you're looking for where you can pick up the points, but at the same time, you can you can pick up 1 or 0 even and solidify your place just because the others can't gain points on you because they're getting beaten as well. So it's not just about who you're facing; it's how it falls across the country with those other games as well.
Alex, I don't know about you. I just want that season finale game against Arsenal. Wolves are safe and don't need to scoreboard watch. I don't want to go in there going, well, we don't necessarily need a point if this and this and this happens. Like, I would just like it to be because Arsenal has a chance to win the title that day. And I don't want to go in needing to get a draw to stay up going against the team that's going for the title and is going to be like stacked and ready to go.
Yeah, I think it's got to be relevant for Arsenal only going into that, and that's the only way that we can enjoy it. And that's exactly that. It's just safety for Wolves has been clinched, and it probably would be a little bit tastier if Arsenal hasn't necessarily clinched it, which is a very real possibility. Because just looking at the top of the table, there's 6 points clear. City have a game in hand, and they play each other again. So if City win their game in hand and then beat Arsenal, we could be in a situation where goal difference or the result of the final game of the season could be relevant. And Wolves were in a pretty relevant game at the end of last year, and that was pretty fun,
Yeah.
So I just hope it's a one-sided relevance only for Arsenal, and that Wolves have clinched safety by then, which maybe I'm being too optimistic, but for all the reasons you just mentioned about the teams beneath us, who some still don't have a manager, I don't think it's far-fetched to think that could be the case.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that match day 38, Everton and Bournemouth are playing each other. Somebody's got to get points there. Leeds is going against Tottenham. You never know with them. They may be like packing. Southampton, they'll probably be out by then. But West Ham and Leicester too. There's some where you can see the teams below getting some points. So it goes, uh-oh. With the next three, Paul, Brentford, Leicester City, Crystal Palace, do you feel like if Wolves get 6 points, then we can start breathing a sigh of relief from those 3 games?
Yeah, I do. I think another one today that I saw, there's odds out there from the bookmakers about the points total that's going to bring about relegation, and they've got the over under on 35.5. So they're
Interesting.
looking at 36 points, which that's really those 2 wins and a draw sprinkled in. Maybe I think we'll be okay. So six would be effectively there, I'd say.
Alex, what are the least amount of points they can get where you'd still feel okay, solid results?
Hmm. Uh,
A
from those
4?
three, I was gonna say four. Yeah,
As
I think
long
I'd
as
be.
though
I mean,
as long as the win is Leicester, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
makes
Yeah, it's
sense.
important who the win comes against, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if they don't beat Brentford, I'm not going to be sad. If they get a point against Brentford, arguably I'll be really happy knowing that they could still get points against um other teams in the relegation battle, right? So, I think four. Four is my minimum. Five outstanding. Six, I'm like, oh, we might be safe.
Yeah. 5 would be interesting. That would mean getting a result from all 3 games.
Yeah,
Whereas
that's a
6, it
little.
would be, 2 results and 1, loss. So it would be I'd be happy with 5 as long as the win was against Leicester. I would look at that as positive. Obviously, I'd love 9 points, but let's be realistic. Wolves aren't going to get 9 points. We know they're going to screw up one of these games. Which of those 3 games, Paul, do you think has the bigger stink bomb potential?
Um,
Leicester, right?
it, no, I don't actually. I just whenever it comes to a home game, I've just got that dread, and it it, it feels like we don't have a good run of form at home versus Brentford. Palace are just one of those teams that we either play well against and beat comfortably, or we shit the bed and we cough up a 2-0 defeat at home. So I'm less worried about the away game and more worried about what we do at home. And that's even coming off a 1-0 victory against Chelsea, just because it's the different type of opposition that we'll face.
Whole Lotta Wolves is self-funded, so if you're interested in sponsorship opportunities as a way to reach a niche audience, email hello@wholelottawolves.com for our sponsor packages. Just want to make a contribution as a listener who enjoys the show? Then head to buymeacoffee.com/WLWpod. That's buymeacoffee.com/WLWpod. We greatly appreciate any contribution. Up the Wolves.
So, guys, we're kind of already talking about Brentford, like just big picture, but the game is Saturday. It's going to be at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 Central. Paul, I'm going to be on the West Coast, so I got to wake up to watch it at 7. Ugh. Ugh. I don't know, man. You West Coast guys, man, that's tough. So we'll see how I'm feeling. Hopefully, I'm waking up that early, by the beach going, you know what? This was a good way to start the weekend. I don't want my weekend being ruined that quick, Paul. I don't know.
It is pretty early when it's West Coast time. That can really shape your weekend.
Yeah, I know. I get pissed when I wake up and they lose at 9 o'clock. Oh, geez, I get up for that early. So lineup wise, what are you thinking, Paul?
It's a good question. I'm leaning a little like what Alex said. I'd be. I think Costa played on Saturday to fill a particular role, which I don't necessarily think we need exactly against Brentford. So I'd definitely like to see the same shape return. I'd like to see potentially, if Costa doesn't start, for Wang to come in and have that fluidity and mobility that we saw at Anfield in the Cup, where they dovetailed pretty well. We still with that, rather than Wang coming in for Podence, I still think we need a creative spark from somewhere. And in terms of form, especially being at Molineux, I'd probably have that as Podence over Sarabia at the moment. But I could see a more fluid 4-3-3 if it was Wang, Cunha, and Sarabia on the right.
What do you
But
think, Alex?
I don't think he'll be that he'll tweak with it that much.
What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, I think that's actually, thinking about it now, is kind of an ideal lineup. Because I think while I like Cunha playing with another central striker to play off of, I think Cunha and Sarabia together, even if Cunha has to play in that central striker position, is always a good thing. I think since they both joined in January, I think it's been proven, maybe other than Podence and Spurts, that they could be probably the two most creative players. And I like Huang coming in. To me, that feels like what Paul's putting forth, like like when we just say like play your best 11. I feel like that is probably the best 11, and that the midfield would then consist of Lamina kind of dropping back like he normally does between the defenders and being that, defensive midfielder, and then Gomes and Matheus being the other two in the middle, and Moutinho off the bench. I would say that's got to be the ideal 11.
I'm super excited to see that midfield 3 again this week. Like, I was just getting so pumped watching what those 3 were doing together. I mean, they were just everywhere, and that's the way to win the fans over and get fans excited when you see them, making a play to, down on the final third, and then they're rushing back and stealing the ball back. Just absolutely love it. Guys, let's look at the prediction board. Nick, last week, our new guest, he got a big 1 point because he predicted a 2-1 Wolves win. Alex, we both thought Chelsea was going to win, and we got no points. Paul had a draw, so no points. So our guest spot is now up to 28 points. I'm in second with 22. You have 21. And Paul, it's still looking rough, man. You're 4 points behind in the relegation battle with 8 games to go.
On the Southampton of our prediction league.
Yeah. The good news is we have a chance to catch up on the guest spot, Alex.
Yes.
So it's sad when our guests are easily the top guessers on here. All right,
Yeah.
Alex, I'll let you go first. What's your prediction?
Ooh, I am going to say 1-1. Get a point at home. I'll take it all day. Ivan Toney just probably has
He'll
to score
get some
against Wolves.
stupid ass penalty.
Yeah, another pen. I know he scored a pen last. I feel like he scored a lot of penalties recently. I know he got one last week. But Wolves get one on the board as well, playing on the front foot at home again, feeling like safety is within their reach. So that's what I got.
Paul?
Yeah, it feels a little. Yeah, I can't copycat it exactly, but I would lean to one each. And I don't want to predict a win in the hope that I'll predict the wrong result that brings about a win. So I'll go for a 2-2 tie.
2-2 draw. Okay. Paul, you remember what I said last week? I said, man, I'm going to pick Chelsea, and if Wolves come and win, I'm going to pick against them again this next week. So let's say 1-0 Brentford with Wink. We know what I'm hoping for. So, yeah, that's what I'm going with. And you know what? Paul may catch me in the standings, but if they keep winning, I'm going to keep going against them and hopefully get out of this relegation doo-doo. All right, Alex, it's everybody's favorite time of the podcast. No stupid questions. What do we got this week?
All right. Well, you already hit on Sam Spencer's earlier about the recruitment team deserving some plaudits for what the midfield looked like without Neves. We got a couple more, though, some good ones coming in via Twitter. At WLWpod is the handle where you can tweet them. Let's start with the Cage Fighting Pod. At the Cage Fighting Pod, what is the best Nicolas Cage film? This is something I believe a while back in the archives we might have discussed on this show when Stu from the Wolves Fancast was on, who I know is a member of the Cage Fighting podcast. But what do you guys have as your favorite Nicolas Cage film?
Paul, what's yours? I'll let you start.
I think I said it previously when it was mentioned, and I haven't got a vast plethora of knowledge to delve into, but at the time, I loved Face Off. I think it's pretty timeless and could even make for a pretty good remake as well. So I'm sticking with Face Off.
Okay. Man, there's some good ones. I'm looking through his IMDb, which is just crazy the amount of films he's done.
It
Did you
is.
know he had a pretty good stretch there where he had National Treasure, Lord of War, World Trade Center, and then the iconic The Wicker Man. I mean, that was a good one. And that's not even going into the Leaving Las Vegas, The Rock, Con Air, Face Off 4 film trick. But my favorite one is one of his newer ones. I don't know if you guys have seen it, Willy's Wonderland. Have you guys seen that?
No.
Nicolas Cage says nothing the entire movie. Absolutely nothing. And it's about a Chuck E. Cheese where the animatronics are actually possessed by a satanic cult, and so it's been closed. And he's like being sacrificed because he had needed a tire change, so they hire him because he doesn't have money to clean the place. And Nicolas Cage kicks ass on animatronic possessed dolls while without saying a word the entire movie. It's incredible. But the only one who could have pulled it off was Nick Cage.
Still sounds like every Chuck E. Cheese I've ever been in on a Saturday afternoon. So
I will say it is definitely rated R. Don't let the kiddos watch it, but I highly, highly recommend Willy's Wonderland.
Wow. That's really good. When you're going through Nick Cage's IMDb, it's hard not to think of him as the hardest working man in Hollywood because of the sheer number of films he's starred in. And then under the upcoming tab, which means things that presumably have already been filmed and maybe not released, there's 5 that are so set to be released in 2023. That's insane.
And that's not
so
even
much
including
work.
Renfield, which is about to release, which looks fantastic.
Yeah, which he's a lead in, or at least like a co-lead in, where he plays Dracula. So that's amazing. The one I nominated when that question was previously discussed, and I asked if it counted, and I got an approval from Stu, so it does count, is Kick-Ass, because I always love that movie. I know he's not necessarily a lead in that movie, but that was mine, so I'm gonna stick with it. All right. Continuing on, Todd DeWitt, friend of show, frequent guest, says, this weekend we saw Lopetegui put away the turtleneck and step out in a crew neck. Which style will he wear next? Henleys, V-necks, deep V-necks, button-up, halter top? Where are we feeling on the Lopetegui fashion angle here? Where do we think he's going next?
I think it's got to be the V-neck. I mean, he's already kind of shown he likes to show the chest a little bit when he had the long sleeve shirt kind of undone a little bit. So that's what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with the V-neck. I don't know if he'll do the deep V-neck, but I think it'll be the V-neck.
I think you got to factor in the somewhat April showers effect of British weather at the moment as well. So whilst the TV cameras may have painted a bright and sunny afternoon in Wolverhampton on Saturday, there may be that chilly wind come across or the sun goes in and you can really feel the temperature drop. So I'm thinking, given that it's also cricket season that started in England, that he's going to go for the polo and then the cricket jumper that's wrapped around and then tied together so it hangs over his shoulders. I think he'll feel into his English countryside roots a little.
Nice.
Wow. I absolutely
Alex,
love
are
that.
you going to buy either of those?
I got to see him rock it first before I commit to duplicating the look. So here's the thing. You mentioned over-unders 2 weeks ago. You were setting those lines, and we did one for turtlenecks for Lopetegui.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to worry a little bit. Climate change is real. It looked really nice there, although I think right now it's in the 40s Fahrenheit there, so still probably turtleneck eligible. But I'm starting to think that the under is going to hit on that, and I believe Paul and I took the over. So I think he is
Yeah.
going to transition from the turtleneck, which kind of stinks. I love that Todd nominated Henley. I feel like that's a look I could easily see him going with, and that feels like a natural next step for the kind of spring look. Maybe like a Henley with like a little jacket over it, like almost like a sport coat Henley underneath thing. Which is like something I feel like you'd wear to like a cocktail party that's like kind of not formal, but just like, casual with some jeans. But I don't know, man. Have you guys seen the way he like some of the pictures of like him a few months ago and now? Wolverhampton has aged this man. Like, I feel like he's going tracksuit real soon. Like, I don't have time for
Oh.
dress. I'm all in on just surviving, literally just surviving.
What is it that harsh living out there during a Wolverhampton winter, Paul?
You've got it. It's tricky because you don't know the exact. Well, my geography is too poor, and then my understanding of the climate there to really paint the picture. But it seemed exactly the same, like Nuno, Bruno, and Lopetegui, that they were definitely more fresher face and tanned for starters before they came over. And a few months in, it does look like the life has been sucked out of him a little bit. So whether he did come from more sunnier climes where you top up that tan a little naturally to now where you probably don't see sunshine a hell of a lot, I don't know. The one that always gets me is like his press conferences where he's let the stubble grow out. He looks like he's been up all night. It kind of, I feel bad. I want to phone up and ask if he's okay. That's the one that gets me.
So
Yeah.
I'm looking at average temperatures in Seville. So it's in the 90s this week Fahrenheit in Seville. Even in February when it was quite chilly, they were still high 60s, low 70s in February. So this has been quite a dramatic change from there to Wolverhampton.
Yeah, I think Wolves have a warm weather summer training camp coming their way because Lopetegui needs it. Flights to Alicante or wherever Tenerife have been booked. All right, can I nominate one bonus?
Yes.
No stupid question from myself.
Okay.
It seems like the consensus between you guys is that Southampton will be relegated. I feel like we could probably say that fairly confidently. If you're picking that team for parts, and I don't necessarily see any of those parts being like a prime candidate for Wolves, but let's say Wolves get to inherit one Southampton player as they get relegated. Who would that be if you had your pick?
Let's see.
That's a good question.
Maitland-Niles. I think I'd take Maitland-Niles. I think bring some good versatility.
And at a position where the future is uncertain, right?
Yeah.
Semedo maybe has 1 year left if he opts in for that final year, which I think is like an automatic.
Mm-hmm.
If you consider him a right back, he's also a right midfielder.
Or Ward-Prowse. I mean, he's solid too. God, their roster is boo-boo.
Yeah. I was thinking back to when we previewed that game, and I think they had just signed Kamaldeen Sulemania, who seemed really exciting, and then he seemed exciting against Wolves, but like, is that the type of player that won't play in the championship because he's still so unknown? It's like I feel like he sticks around. What do you think,
It's a good
Paul?
question.
We've got it depends how what they thought of Alcaraz and how he's adjusted, if he's come through, if there's still any interest in him, or is that ship sailed now that we've got a more dynamic midfield? I'm just looking at their team. I think if there's one to potentially fill a need and a gap should it arise, I'd probably want to drill down and find his age, but I think I'm the right side of 30. I'd probably go with Walker Peters at right back because
Hmm.
he checks the homegrown category as well. I think he's got capped by England at some point as well. So maybe he's one that comes in a little under the radar, but can be a little unsung hero if potentially well even not if Semedo sticks around. There's still some debate over Johnny's long-term future as well. So they're definitely in the market for one right back this summer and maybe two.
I think what's going
Yeah.
to be really interesting is if Leicester goes down, where some of their guys go off, because there were already rumors that Leicester was in big financial issues. If they go down, I mean, Vardy, where does he go? James Madison and one of my favorite players, Wilfred Ndidi.
Yeah. And Tielemans, right, is still there. I mean,
Yeah.
and he's
He's out of contract as well, so he's gone regardless, I think.
I mean, yeah, that's a pretty good roster for a team that is so garbage. James Madison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madison seems
Samari.
like he's got Newcastle written all over him
Oh yeah.
if they do go
Yeah,
down.
I could see that. Vardy, I'll be curious to see where he goes. It'll be somewhere where he's just a, assassin off the bench.
All right. So teams below 30 points, then let's open it up. So let's throw Leicester in there. Well, you get one. Forest is in there. You want Gibbs White back? Everton on 27 points, and then Leeds is still there. They got a lot of Americans. They're
I
on
think we
29
know
points.
where I'm going, guys.
I think we know where you're going with that one. Oh man,
but
that's tough.
but if he is off the table, man, I would love some Ndidi from Leicester. I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
Or how about Connor Cody coming back?
Well, he's still a Wolves player technically.
Yeah,
At present,
this is true.
At present, I think he is.
Oh, actually, Calvert Lewin would be a good one.
Yeah,
he's got paper legs though, so
yeah.
trying to get 12 games out of him a season's a stretch. That's what I immediately look for, is can you get that out and out number 9 from none of them, from any of them? And it's a no, and that's probably why they're all in the position that they are, that those strikers don't grow on trees, so you can't really pick one off if they do go down.
Yeah, I think so. One bonus one I'll throw in. He's an American. His name is not Weston McKennie. Brendan
Tyler
Aronson
Adams.
could. No, well, I'd love Adams, but I feel like he's bringing something Wolves kind of already have
with Gomes. Yeah, I agree.
Aronson could be a fun fit. I don't think that would ever happen. Ward Prowse is my other gut, just so that we could yell shoot for someone who's far outside the box, but we can't do that for Neves. But I don't know that he gets a lot of starts over these guys either. But anyway, sorry to throw us off the rails, but I'm starting to think about some of these teams have some really appealing pieces. And these guys aren't, some of these guys are too good for the championship. So you wonder what's going to happen to them, which you could say about a lot of players on Wolves as well. 2 weeks from now, people could be sitting there saying the same thing about us. So hopefully that's.
Or here's another name to throw out there: Dean Henderson.
No,
yeah.
No,
no
way.
You don't like Hendo?
No. and questionable background as well. I don't think he necessarily fits that well-established policy that we've got, put it that way.
Gotcha.
Okay.
One more. Are you guys caught up on Ted Lasso yet?
No. I'm an episode behind. No spoilers, please.
Okay, well, they actually played Wolves though, so
yes, that I've
very
seen.
briefly. Yeah, that was pretty funny. Paul, this isn't a spoiler, but he's like, "All right, we're playing the Wolverhampton, and what is their nickname? Wanderers." He goes, "Okay, the Wolverhampton Wanderers," and they go, "Well, they go by Wolves." He goes, "Okay, the Wolverhampton Wandering Wolves." No, just Wolves.
Yeah, couldn't quite grasp how to call this team.
How were I saw the likes of Ella Kobe were starred in it, did they play as Wolves players then?
They had so little of the actual action on the pitch that I
Right.
didn't even notice.
Yeah.
It was like 2 seconds. And it was just the Zlatan character scoring on Wolves, of course.
Yeah.
Which has been a great addition. Having a Zlatan character on Ted Lasso has been chef's kiss.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's actually hilarious that he's probably like that in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And like when you see it in a television show context, it seems so far-fetched, but actually it's probably just
It's
based on
not.
exactly who he is. Anyway, all right, that's No Stupid Questions each and every week. It's a really fun part of the show. We appreciate you guys chiming in again at WLW Pod on Twitter. And if you got some long form ones, shoot them to us via email, hello@wholelotofwolves.com.
With that, it brings this week's show to an end, good listeners. So we will be back same time, same place next week. We're going to run down everything that goes on against that Brentford game and then preview that away trip to Leicester, which is the following Saturday on April 22nd. So in the meantime, you know the drill. Let's build on Saturday and up the mighty Wolverhampton Wandering Wolves.